So you've probably heard me say that calming your nervous system is a great way to start recovering from long COVID. However, before we can calm our nervous system, we need to know what is happening in our bodies to have an awareness of what our nervous system is doing. I want to take some time today to help you become more aware of your own body, of the little cues that are showing up inside, so that you can take your first step towards healing. The reason that this is so important in long COVID is because most of us have been so symptomatic for such a long time, and that is so uncomfortable that we naturally dissociate a little bit from that experience. People are telling us to track our symptoms, to focus on our symptoms. They're asking us questions about our symptoms. It's really unpleasant to be in your body with long COVID symptoms. Probably don't have to tell you that. As you're watching this video, you're experiencing it in real time. We don't want to force ourselves to get into our bodies, but we also do need to be able to do that a little bit to understand our nervous system, learn our nervous system, and befriend it. Ultimately, we're making that transition from being focused on our symptoms to being focused instead on our nervous system, which is quite different. I often get comments, "I noticed this symptom. What does this mean?" It doesn't mean anything. Symptoms don't have meaning attached to them, but our nervous system does have meaning attached to it, and learning our body, learning our nervous system, and what shows up is really crucial. And a crucial part of this process is using something like a nervous system tracker. So keep watching to the end of this video, where I'm going to talk more about the one that I have and how you can get a hold of it and use it. We are all different, and what shows up for each of us in each of the 3 nervous system states is going to be a little bit different. It's very easy to say that calm is rest and digest. What do we actually mean by calm? It's maybe a little bit more complicated than that. It's very, very easy to think that you are in rest and digest when you're actually in shutdown. Spending the whole day in shutdown is not calm. We may be sitting or lying and not noticing those active sensations that show up when we're in fight or flight, but there is a key difference between shutdown and calm. When we're in shutdown, we have that heaviness in the body, oftentimes that chronic fatigue. In terms of feelings, we're probably either feeling numb or hopeless and helpless and sad. And we also typically don't want to be around other people, and so we go into that sort of naturally selective social isolation piece. For me, that was a period, mostly in 2021, where I just had that awful feeling in my body all the time. As I'm describing this, it's difficult to put into words, but I imagine if you are at that place right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's not a specific symptom like chest pain or joint pain or itchy skin, but it's just a pervasive awfulness happening inside your body at all times. And I know that I had it because I don't have it now. And again, there's a huge noticeable difference. When you're in the thick of long COVID, yes, you have a lot of acute symptoms. Sometimes we use the word malaise. And I think this is somewhat a type of malaise. It's not a depression or a mental health symptom, but it is a physiological malaise, like a constant awareness that everything is wrong and that is playing out in our body. Another key part, which people don't talk about enough, of that shutdown nervous system state is that it also shuts down gut motility, which means that you wind up with constipation or other difficulties with bowel movements, stomach pain, bloating, sometimes that sensation that you haven't completely emptied your bowel, all of which is very uncomfortable and is a huge sign of being in shutdown. So again, if you are dealing with those right now, probably you are in shutdown for a lot of your day. Now, you can have blended states, but in all honesty, your nervous system needs to be working fully for that to happen. And we know that we have kind of an overstuckness in fight or flight or shutdown, and we don't move easily between the states. And so that means that we're much less likely to have blended states. If you're having difficulty telling the difference between calm, i.e. rest and digest, and shutdown, more than likely, if you're anything like me, it's because you have never been in rest and digest before. Most of us who are doing this nervous system work in long COVID are realizing that actually we existed in fight or flight for most of our lives, with periods of shutdown in between, and that we haven't ever really been in rest and digest properly. The noticeable difference when you are contrasting shutdown to rest and digest is all of the positive sensations that show up when you are finally there. Gratitude. I had never experienced gratitude properly until I did the Safe and Sound protocol, and then it just started showing up in waves. For years, people in the psychology world have been talking about mindfulness and gratitude and acceptance and all of those things. I had tried them and it never really resonated, and I didn't understand why. And now I do, because I'd never really fully been in rest and digest, and I didn't really know what those things felt like. And when you truly feel that sensation, I can promise you it is very different. It is very intense, with a lot of joy and a lot of positivity and warmth throughout your body. It's not just writing a list of things that you're thankful for. It is really a whole body positive sensation. And similarly, you may not have experienced these things before either. Acceptance, compassion, self-compassion, these all show up spontaneously when you make it to rest and digest. And also the word calm can be kind of confusing, because rest and digest oftentimes is more like an aliveness, which has a little bit of a tingly, warm feeling associated with it. It's not just sitting there in stillness. The other thing to watch out for is that it's also not excited. Excited is actually part of fight or flight. As you may have heard me say before, fight or flight is not necessarily a bad thing. It can be a very positive state, and it includes that kind of focused, excited, on the ball, energized, animated, and that's not what we're looking for in rest and digest. And it's also not what we're looking for in shutdown. Also present in rest and digest is social connection. And again, if you are in that place where you are thinking, please, I don't want to be around anybody right now, chances are you are not in rest and digest. You are very much in shutdown, and that is a very crucial part of that protectiveness of that state. How do we move up the ladder? You really do want to calm your nervous system, and you've probably heard me say that phrase many times, but again, it's a little bit more complicated than that. It isn't just calm nervous system, move up ladder. Each of the stages of our nervous system has a cycle, and you have to complete that cycle in order to move up. Completing the cycle of the freeze response, i.e. shutdown, immobilization, is all about energy. If you're trying to get from shutdown to fight or flight, your best bet is curling up like a ball, leaning into that freeze response, conserving energy, letting your body build up as much energy as it can so that it can complete that cycle and move up to fight or flight. Because let's remember, fight or flight is activated, and you're going to need energy to get into that activation and to get out of that activation. you've heard me talk many times before about how long COVID is very much an energy issue, and we have all kinds of physiological complications with our mitochondria that is making it hard for us to have energy. So if you are in shutdown and you are furiously doing things to try and get out of it, you're just wasting all that energy and you won't be able to complete the cycle. Instead, we have to do the counterintuitive thing, which is lean into it and accept where we are right now. If we then curl up like a ball, we will save energy, and then when you have built up all that energy, you can complete the cycle and move up. And when we're curled up like a ball, you want to find a way to be in your body and be with it, being curious about the sensations, being supportive with your kind of internal dialogue, not freaking out about symptoms. And again, I get this question so often, but what does this mean? And what does this symptom mean? And what is it? And that's what we need to try and get out of. Curling up like a ball, focusing on your body. What do you need from me? What can I do? Where does my body not feel quite as supported as it wants to? Do I need pillows? Do I need other supports? As opposed to, oh my God, my heart rate is going through the roof. This is awful. I'm going to die. You're not going to die. Go into your body, be with your body. If you are noticing things like heart rate racing or other kinds of sensations in your body that are energetic and uncomfortable, it may be a sign that you're actually not in shutdown. So in that case, if you're noticing energetic symptoms in your body, then probably you're in fight or flight and you need to move the energy through, which you can't do when you're in a ball. So you can see why it's so important to know your nervous system and understand the different sensations that indicate to you each of the stages. Then when we're thinking about fight or flight, the cycle is about adrenaline and cortisol. First, adrenaline shows up, and then about 15 minutes later, cortisol shows up. Ultimately, what we want to do here is move those chemicals through your body so that you don't go into extended fight or flight, which will inevitably lead to shutdown. Again, fight or flight is all about energy, but in a different way. When you're in shutdown, you want to conserve energy and let it ball up so that you can kind of break out. When you're in fight or flight, you want to move the energy through as fast as you can, because really you've got that sort of 15-20 minute window to work with. Now, in the past, this is where we would have gone for a run, gone to the gym, gone to a dance class, all of that super athletic stuff that most of us were doing before, and unfortunately can no longer do because of post-exertion malaise and exercise intolerance. But there are different things that we can do that will still get the energy out of our bodies and not put us into a crash. This is where you have to be careful and gentle and a little bit trial and error. And that's why it's super crucial that you have built up all the energy so you have a little bit of a reserve here. Ones that come to me quite quickly are just kind of shaking it out. Most of us can do a little bit of that without elevating our heart rate, without pushing us into a crash. If you have anger specifically showing up in your fight or flight, as opposed to, for example, anxiety, then another way to move the energy can be kind of punching the air, or if you're someone who used to do kickboxing, similar kind of action with your legs. Again, not too hard, but it's something about being intentional with where you are moving your arms. For those of you who know some of the other polyvagal strategies that I talk about, push away is another great one here. That's a little bit slower than just punching the air, but again, you're moving the energy through your body so that you don't get flooded with extra cortisol and then ultimately go into shutdown. Learning the subtle art of this energy equation of these different cycles and how to complete them, that's how we move up the ladder. So it's not just calming your nervous system. It's learning your nervous system, befriending your nervous system, and going with how it works. To help you with this process, I use a nervous system tracker. It's available in my course, it's available in my book, and I'm going to give you guys a link so that you can also get a copy of it here. I highly recommend that you start with this nervous system tracking work, and I will also include in there specific long COVID symptoms that you might find, and again, we're all different, as an indication at those different states. I also release new videos every Wednesday. If you don't want to miss out on any of those new videos, hit subscribe so that you will be notified. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you have a tolerable week.